Saturday, get your friends to vote. Get the person that you see at the post office to vote. Get the person who delivers your pizza to vote. We all need to vote by Saturday, so make sure that that gets done. But hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here with all of you, and so happy to be here. And I'm so pleased to see our tribal leaders here. My governor, yes, my governor from Laguna Pueblo, Governor Martin Kawimi. Very happy that everyone's here. Look, we're 5 days out from the midterm election, and the stakes could not be higher. We have many crucial races that will go a long way in deciding the future of New Mexico. And I'm talking about the future, 10 years into the future. And it's never been more important that we elect Democrats up and down the ballot. Democrats who are committed to building a brighter future for our state and for our country. For the past 2 years, we have been blessed to have President Joe Biden leading the way. For him, leadership is about public service. No matter the odds, no matter the distractions, he's laser focused on getting things done for working people and for people right here in New Mexico. Yes. President Biden and Democrats have not just been working for working people, they've been delivering. The Inflation Reduction Act, which Congress passed without a single Republican vote. And President Biden signed it into law. It will lower energy and prescription costs. It will lower the deficit and fight inflation. It makes the largest ever investment in fighting the climate crisis. All while making corporations finally pay their fair share. Well, no wonder Republicans didn't vote for it, right? Because they're rarely on our side. They're rarely on the side of working people. But look, that's on top of the CHIPS Act, which is already helping create manufacturing jobs right here in the United States. Democrats also passed the PACT Act. Will finally help to ensure our veterans exposed to burn pits and toxins have access to the health care they need and deserve. And I thank every single veteran here for their service. Thank you for your service to our country. All of this work builds on the American Rescue Plan, which has helped create millions of jobs and has restarted our economy. And the bipartisan infrastructure law, which is already helping to repair our country's roads and bridges. We took on Big Pharma to bring down drug prices. We took on the NRA, which has paralyzed action on gun safety in the past. We did all of this because President Biden and Democrats are fighting for all of us. So the choice in this election, it's pretty clear. I think you all can agree with me on that, right? While Republicans are pursuing an extreme agenda that includes a national abortion ban, cutting Social Security and Medicare, raising costs for working families, and yes, well, like one of our other presidents said, don't boo, vote. Raising costs for families and continued efforts to attack our sacred right as Americans, and that is our voice through the ballot box. And that's why this election is so important. It's about a choice. And New Mexicans will choose Democrats to lead our state alongside the president, but we've got to do the work to show voters who we are and how powerful their voices are. In this election, New Mexicans have a true champion of working families on the ballot, And that is our amazing governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham. A 12th generation New Mexican who has devoted her entire life to giving back to her community and fighting for a better future for all New Mexicans. She kept us safe. She is a champion of protecting women's reproductive rights, of lowering costs for working families and tackling the climate crisis head on. And she has a track record of delivering results for New Mexico. Meanwhile, the Republicans, like Mark Ronchetti, who you heard an earful from our wonderful Senator Ben Ray Lujan, they're pushing the extreme GOP agenda that would take New Mexicans backwards. Are we going backwards? We're going forward with our amazing governor and every single Democrat up and down the ballot. Because we can't go backward. And I won't lie to you, winning this election is going to take a lot of hard work, but it's also hugely important work. And I've been there, all across the state of New Mexico. I've worn out sneakers, I've worn out tires. I know what it means to work hard, so I'm not asking you to do anything that I haven't done before. So I'm asking you, work hard, work hard. We have 5 days left to make sure that we get every single voter to the polls. Because you know what? The Republicans are catching up to us, and we can't let that happen. So, the work that you do in these final days will be the difference in deciding control of the governor's office and deciding control of the House. We have a chance to flip a seat right here in New Mexico. And the way we flip that seat is to make sure that every single person gets out to vote for Gabe Vasquez in District 2. And we know that Gabe Vasquez is running right here in Albuquerque. So let's make sure we get that done. We understand what's on the line in this election. Women's rights are on the line, climate change is on the line, and quite frankly, our democracy is on the line. So it's time to turn up the dial, to put our heads down, lace up our sneakers, and to run past the finish line. We have to make sure we all turn out the vote. It's all of our responsibility, and that our family, friends, and those in communities across New Mexico cast their ballots too. You can volunteer. You can volunteer from home. Did you all know that? You can make calls from the comfort of your own home. Just put your recliner back, start dialing, because it's time to get everyone out to vote. You can go to iwillvote.com. You can post that all over Facebook and your Twitter or whatever it is, iwillvote.com, and everyone can make a plan to vote today. It's best to make a plan. Put it in your schedule so that you know nothing is going to mess up my opportunity to go and vote. So if you requested a vote by mail ballot, which I did, and you know what? I sent it in right away, and it's already there. I checked. My ballot is at the county clerk's office. So let's get this done, you guys. It's really, really important. So by Saturday, vote before Saturday. If you can't vote, if you really can't vote before Saturday, then vote on November 8th. Please. So look, I hope you all are as fired up as I am. 5 days left to go. Let's make it happen, New Mexico! So one last thing. When the president comes out here, let's give him a great, big, huge New Mexico welcome. I love you all. I love every single one of you.
Please welcome to the stage social worker Roslyn Gallegos.
On average, cancer patients in our country pay over $42,000 a year for treatment. Depending on the type of cancer, that cost can exceed $1 million. 7 years ago, when I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, I was faced with this reality. Insurance refused to allow me access to life-saving treatment. The cost for my life was too high. I reached out to Michelle Lujan Grisham, and she chose to fight for me, for my daughter, and for my life. She went to battle with me and my family during treatment, remission, and as I rebuilt my future. I am only standing here today because Michelle Lujan Grisham decided that my life was priceless. She chose me and my family, just like I know she will choose each and every New Mexican, because to her, all of us are worth fighting for. She has proven that again and again throughout her term as governor. Her focus on uplifting each and every one of us is clear. She's delivered nearly universal child care, guaranteed tuition-free college for our babies, capped the cost of insulin, lowered health insurance premiums, added 32,000 jobs to our economy, and helped instate the lowest unemployment rate in 14 years. It is truly my honor to introduce my governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham.
I'm liking that better because I think that Mark Ronchetti really hates it. Well, you're welcome. If Rosalind didn't make you cry, she is a powerful and courageous woman. She is. And she reminds me, as she said to you, of each and every one of you. Boy, we are no strangers to standing up and fighting for our families. Not one of us. That is who we are. It's who we are. And it's who I am. And it's why today is so incredibly important. And I feel so energized. I needed you today. And New Mexico needs you. All right? Because showing up is the key. We have the voters. We have the will. We are what democracy looks like. It's us. It is. And around the country, they look to New Mexico, right? We're the bellwether. What happens here creates the right emergence and incentives for all of the things across America. And I know at every single election, somebody who's never done any of the work, someone who's not from our communities or our neighborhoods likes to tell us what it ought to look like. And they like to point, at generations of struggle, which I find, frankly, and I bet you do too, offensive. All right? I'm offended by that. Because you know what? I never see, any of those numbers unless they're 1, 2, 3, and 4. And by the way, we're on those lists from the environment to the economy to the #1 place in America for cradle to career investments in our families. #1. Right? And we can debate ideas, but that doesn't happen in the GOP anymore. Right? That's long gone. The only thing my opponent stands for today is repealing and taking from you every single educational investment, every investment in free childcare, every investment in your sons and daughters, in your family, every single one. And you know what I say to that? Well, if you've been hanging around me, absolutely not. All right? Absolutely not. We have the highest paid educators in the Southwest. We just gave our early childhood educators a raise. We're giving our child care workers dignity, training, respect, and support. Exactly what they need. And we are #2, and watch out, New Hampshire, because we're coming for you. We're second in the country for increased enrollment in higher education. And in this world, and in this state, where it's still too hard out there, you don't hear any Democrats saying that we don't have more to do. You don't hear any leaders from the Democratic Party saying to you that it's all perfect out there, not once. You have all of us thinking about tomorrow and the future and building together and making it really clear that protecting your paychecks is on our agenda every day, which is why New Mexico also is one of the leaders in the country in terms of returning your hard money back to you in any number of tax relief, including we're the only state in America that extended the child tax credit. And as a result, we're the only state in America today that is still moving children and families out of poverty. The only one. All right? So we know that it works, but we're going to need more of it. We are. We need more of it. And that's why I'm running for re-election. Because you can clap for that all you want. All you want. All right? Because it is. It's hard out there. And when it's hard out there, people think, gosh, is it worth it? Are we really making the differences? Is it getting everywhere that it needs? Can we all work together to keep fighting through and make a difference during inflation for our families? And the answer is yes. And this is how I know. Rosalind, she reminds me that if we do it together, we save lives, we can make a difference. And I'll tell you what else. On the campaign trail is probably the best time for someone like me to get re-energized and get reconnected with the people I care about most, New Mexicans, your families. And I was out last week, and I was asking for votes. And I was also, drinking coffee. So I'm asking for votes. I'm buying coffee. And I walked in to a restaurant, and a woman began to visibly shake when I walked in, and that's not always a good sign. So I did, I want to be respectful. I proceeded and walked towards her, timidly. And I asked her if it was okay if I got close, and she said yes. Then she asked me if I would give her enough time for a moment. I said, of course. I asked her if she was all right. She started to cry. And she said, my name is Maggie. I'm a special education teacher. I used to make more as a lifeguard than a special education teacher here in New Mexico. And I have a family of my own, and every night I would go home and I would have a fight with myself. I can't pay the rent, can't buy enough food, can't pay for childcare, but I can't leave this profession because I got 30 kids. Frankly, she had 60. I have 60 kids who need me. And if I don't show up for them, they're not going to make it. And every single night I had to choose between my own family and the families that I dedicated my career to serve every single day until you were governor. And I don't have to make that choice anymore because now I make enough to be a special education teacher. Your rebates this summer lifted me up. I made it through the summer. Your free child care program means both of my children are getting the services they need. And for the first time in a long time, maybe ever in my young family, I have dignity and quality of life. And that's all I'm asking for. And isn't that who we are as Democrats? Isn't that why you're a Democrat? Well, it's certainly why I am. And I'm going to tell you one more quick thing. I'm over time, but I'm so happy to see you. And these last 5 days, I'm going to work my heart out and take my bum knee and my hitch and my get along all across the state. But I want to talk to you about respect, about why not only doing right for people, telling the truth, being who you are. Backstage, the president went and got me a chair. I didn't ask for a chair, but I needed one nonetheless. All right? My opponent at both debates refused to sit with me because he doesn't respect and treat people in the way, and I don't think the GOP brand is that at all anymore. And so we are, right, tomorrow, tonight, the next day, and on November 8th, we're going to reject that attitude. We're going to solidly march together forward. We're going to send President Biden a new member of Congress. Because he deserves that respect from us in return. Doesn't he? And I need a partner in the White House. And when our fires were raging, he called me, it felt like every day. He also came here and did what an effective leader does. He took responsibility. And then he worked with our members of Congress, only the Democrats from New Mexico. I want you to wrap your head around that. Only the Democrats in New Mexico stood up to provide $2.5 billion to rebuild the lives of 30,000 New Mexicans. If that doesn't tell you what we're fighting against, I don't know what does. I need a partner who will keep investing in education. I need a partner who will keep investing in healthcare. I need a partner who will keep building an economy, who will have your back, who will tell the truth, who will be really clear that New Mexico, by God, matters. take that Democratic leader, that partner, over some other guy that told the rest of the country that COVID was a hoax and to deal with it ourselves. I want someone with integrity. I want someone who cares about you as much as I do, as much as you do. So I'm going to end with this one thing. We're a little behind. You know, we catch up fast. Are you ready to catch up fast? You ready to get Gabe Vasquez elected? Are you ready to call so we make sure that we return Melanie Stansberry to Congress? Are you ready to make sure that we're making calls statewide so that we get Teresa Ledger Fernandez returned to Congress? Are we going to get our Democrats up and down the ballot elected, up and down the ballot statewide? And are you going to show up to make sure the shortest governor in America gets returned? Oh! 4 more years. 4 more years. Last time. 4 more years. God bless you. God bless you and your family.
Albuquerque public school teacher Sylvia Sosa de Chavez.
Hello, everyone. Just a few minutes ago, saw the president. Let's reach out to him and let him know that we're so happy he's here. Bienvenidos a todos. I am so excited to be here with you today. My name, as they said, is Sylvia Sosa de Chavez, and I am a lifelong educator here working in Albuquerque Public Schools. Every day, I see students come into my classroom. They have big dreams, big goals, big ideas. But in those same students, I see their struggles. The one thing that remains clear through all of that is a simple truth. Their futures matter, and their avenues for success deserve to be paved and illuminated, just like any other young child in this country. After more than 25 years in the classroom, I know what it means to fight for our students' futures. And when it comes to fighting for our country's future, there is no one better than President Joe Biden. For the past 2 years, President Biden and Democrats have made unprecedented progress, rebuilding our economy so it works better for New Mexican families, just like my very own. And they have delivered. President Biden is fighting to bring down costs. He passed the Inflation Reduction Act to lower the price of prescription drugs, health care, and utilities. He's created record job growth, brought both parties together to rebuild our infrastructure and fix our roads and our bridges. He's providing millions of Americans with much-needed targeted student debt relief and is helping keep guns out of our classrooms and our communities. Meanwhile, Republicans are pushing an extreme agenda. to take away our freedoms and ban abortion nationwide, to put Social Security and Medicare on the chopping block, and to make it harder to participate in our democracy. They want to take our country backward. But we're fighting, right? We're fighting to protect our freedoms and our futures because we know just how important they are, right? In 5 days, I hope you'll join me in voting for Democrats up and down the ballot. This is our chance to make our voices heard. Y como demócratas, sí se puede. 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 Es un gran honor estar aquí con ustedes y con todas esas personas que han hablado esta tardecita. Now, it is my honor to introduce the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you. Do you all have chairs to sit in? You've been standing all this time? As my mother would say, God love you. Well, look, folks, Sylvia, thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate it. I really do. And by the way, Rosalind, who spoke about her battle with cancer, I just want you to know that every one of you, raise your hand if you have any family members suffer from cancer. Every single audience I speak to. I not long ago lost my son to cancer. He was an attorney general of the state of Delaware. He should be the one standing talking to you, not me. And he volunteered to go to Iraq for a year. Thanks for waving, big guy. And he unfortunately, his hooch was right next to one of those burn pits. And he came home with stage 4 glioblastoma, and he passed away. And here's what I decided to do. I decided to make sure we defeat cancer. No, I'm not joking. Now, here's the deal. What we did was, we have a thing I didn't plan, it was going to keep you a little longer, I apologize. But what happened was that there's a thing in the Defense Department that has a special agency that does nothing but deal with those things that are needed to keep us safe. Like, for example, everything they invented, they're the ones that came up with the internet. They're the ones that came up with a whole range of things that make us much safer. And I decided to set up the same thing at the Department of Health and Human Services that focuses on one thing, defeating cancer. Defeating cancer. And we provided an additional $5 billion grant to do that. And so we're going to defeat cancer. We really are. There's nothing beyond our capacity. One of the things that bothers me the most about sort of what's happened under the other guy's control is that we've sort of lost confidence in ourselves. There's nothing we cannot do when we set our mind to it, and we do it together. I mean, nothing. And so, folks, we are going to beat cancer, and I promise you that. Look, the other thing is that, I tell you what, that governor, she's something else, isn't she? She talks about being the shortest governor. She's the tallest governor I know. She's the tallest governor I know. She's the real deal. I mean, she's really the real deal. Again, God love her, as my mom would say. Look, 12 generations at a minimum here in New Mexico. Well, that's only outdone by my Secretary of Interior. But, folks, No one's going to fight harder for this state. It's in our DNA, and it's great to be with some members of Congress. Ben Ray Lujan, the senator, he's a good friend of mine. Done great work. I don't know where Ben is. He's out there somewhere. And that woman, what's her name? Stansberry, yeah. She's pretty darn good, isn't she? She can really get it done. And now we have a great shot at electing Gabe Vasquez, your congressman in the 2nd District. And, between the two of them, I badly need their votes in Congress. I also want to recognize the Cabinet Secretary, Deb Haaland. She's the best. She's the best. She's doing an incredible job leading the Department of Interior. A family of 35 generations in New Mexico. First Native American to be serving the United States Cabinet. First one. And I want to thank all the tribal leaders here today. I look forward to them coming to the White House, the Tribal Nations Summit we're having in a few weeks. Look, folks, in New Mexico, we need to re-elect your governor, to state the obvious. We need to elect the ballot up and down. We got, look, this is why we're here. We're here for simply 5 days. 5 days to go, and until the most important elections in our lifetime. And that's not hyperbole. It's going to shape what the next two generations look like. Not a joke, because so much is changing, so much. It's clear this is not a referendum. This is a choice between two vastly different visions of America. I've said from the beginning that my objective when I ran was to build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. The economy that rewards work, not just wealth. An economy that works for everybody. So the poor have a ladder up, the middle class do well. And when that happens, the wealthy still do very well, man. They don't need our help. And look, it's a fundamental shift. It's working compared to the MAGA Republican trickle-down economics that Republicans offer. Let's take a look at the facts. When I took office, this economy was in ruins. My predecessor was the first president Herbert Hoover, who actually lost more jobs he had fewer jobs when he left than when he came in. Unemployment was at 6.4%. People were really hurting. Hundreds of thousands of small businesses in your state and all across America, they had closed. Today, we're in a much better place, although people are still hurting. We got more to do, but 10 million jobs created since I take office. That's more than any time with the help of your administration. Unemployment rate is 3.5%, the lowest it's been in 50 years. 5.4 million Americans applied to start new businesses last year, the highest ever in American history. Thanks to Michelle, there were small businesses in New Mexico. There were more now than before the pandemic. Look, guys, New Mexico added 32,000 jobs this past year alone in this state. And by the way, Putin's invasion of Ukraine sent gas prices soaring around the world. But because of the actions we've taken, gas prices are coming down. Here in America at home, they're down $1.25 since the summer peak of $5. And look, back in June, they were $5 average price across America. It's a difficult time across America. The country stepped up and did the right thing, but not everyone. I know we have a lot of leases out here in New Mexico for oil companies, and we haven't slowed them down at all. They should be drilling more than they're doing now. If they were drilling more, we'd have more relief at the pump. But the oil industry hasn't met their commitment to invest in America and support the American people. One by one, major oil companies reported their record profits this last quarter. Shell Oil, they deserve a hard return on their profit. Shell Oil made $9.5 billion in 90 days the last quarter. Well, guess what? And then that's twice what they made the third quarter of last year. Exxon's third quarter profits this quarter, $18.7 billion. That's more than they made in their 152-year history. Now, look, I want them to make money. That's fine by me. But the last 6 months, the six largest oil companies made more than $100 billion in profit in 200 days. Well, here's the deal. These companies are taking advantage of average profits they're making. If they did it, the average profits they've made for the last 20 years, guess what? Your gasoline prices would be down 50 cents a gallon. No, I'm serious. If we're investing in profits that are at a historic rate, prices would come down even further. But instead, they're buying back their own stock, primarily the way executives get paid, and giving their profits to shareholders. But these outrageous profits are the windfalls of war. Look, earlier this week I made clear that the industry has a choice. Either invest in America or pay higher taxes for your excess profits and face restrictions. You know, it's amazing. Even though my Republican friends in Congress seem to be hoping for a recession, last week's GDP report shows the economy is in fact still growing. My guess is the report the end of this week is going to show that as well. The fact is the economy grew at 2.6% last quarter, although in many may not feel that very well, but business income is up. And guess what? We have created in the United States, just since I've become president, 700,000 manufacturing jobs. Brand new, 700,000. So the economy is up, price inflation is down, real incomes are up, gas prices are down and need to come down further. Exports are also up, which means a simple thing. We're making a lot of money in America because of that. Guess what? We're exporting products we made rather than jobs. No, I'm serious. That's why it's up. We're building it in America and exporting it overseas. Not sending the jobs overseas to pay less and bringing it back home. So, folks, here's one thing. My predecessor promised, remember he promised Infrastructure Week. We're going to rebuild the country. Well, Infrastructure Week lasted for 4 years, never came. It became a punchline. On my watch, with the help of the folks in this room, we turned infrastructure into a decade, a headline. We passed the largest infrastructure bill since Eisenhower's interstate highway system. Look, we invested in our roads, highways, bridges, railroads, ports, airports, water systems, clean water, high-speed internet. Look, folks, and by the way, that includes, for example, I landed at your airport, $7 million at the Albuquerque airport, already going underground. Look, you know, your governor is going to make sure that the money, and it'll be billions of dollars, not a joke, billions of dollars are coming for infrastructure here in this state. And she's going to make sure it's getting out the door right away. The projects all across this state. And folks, look, the American people are beginning to see the benefit of an economy that works for them. Families have more net worth than before the pandemic. Fewer families are behind on their mortgages, their credit card bills than before the pandemic. A lot of families are still in trouble. More important, Americans have health insurance more than they had before the pandemic. You know, we pay the highest prescription drug cost of anywhere in the world. The same exact manufacturer of the same exact drug. If you sell it here in Albuquerque or in Washington, D.C., it costs more than if you sell it in Paris or London or anywhere else. Not a joke. Not a joke. And it's wrong. Without a single Republican vote in Congress, congressional Democrats, we finally beat Big Pharma. And here's the result. Beginning January 1st, seniors on Medicare, their out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs can, no matter what it costs, no matter how much it costs, it cannot be higher than $2,000 a year, even if it's a $10,000 cancer drug or $12,000. Look, and one more thing, if Big Pharma continues to raise drug prices faster than inflation beginning next year because of the bill we passed, they're going to have to write a check to Medicare for the difference between what they charge and I've been trying this for 22 years. Finally beat them. And by the way, last year they raised the price of 1,200 drugs they manufacture faster than the rate of inflation. But guess what? It's stopping now, man. One more significant change. We're capping the cost of insulin. For those of you who know somebody who has diabetes and has to take insulin. Well, guess what? It only costs them $10 to make it. They're not going to be able to charge more than $35 for it instead of $400. That's the law. That's not a joke. I'm going to make sure that $35 limit is for everybody who needs it. It's not just seniors. And folks, on top of these actions, earlier this month, we lowered the cost of hearing aids. You know where we're saving people? You go into Walgreens or Walmart's, this is what it's going to save. It's going to save $3,000 per pair. No, I'm not joking. $3,000 because you go straight and you get it at the counter. And look, and on top of that, I'm doing away with unfair hidden fees known as junk fees, like surprise banking overdraft. All of a sudden you find I just did it. You bounce a check, you have to pay $35 or $50. You have an excess credit card fee of $50 if you're late on your payment. Ending those, they're gone. And by the way, those of you who are going to be, making trips to see your relatives back east or out west, further out west, you buy a plane ticket, and you find out after the fact your cost of your baggage, the cost of having your kids sit next to you, the cost of having to reschedule is out of this world. No more. No more. No hidden fees. They got to state what it is. Department of Transportation working rules that require airlines and travel sites to disclose all the fees up front. Little truth in spending, And look, Republicans want to pass a tax break for the wealthy. They're very upset, Guess what I did? I actually signed a law that said those 55 corporations that in 2020 and beyond made $40 billion and paid zero in taxes, my God, they now have to pay 15%. That's less than you make. You pay more than that. And they're whining. They're whining. We're passing tax credits, Phelps family, buy energy-efficient appliances, put solar panels on their home, do a whole range of things to weatherize, saving on average, experts say at least $500 for family. But guess what? These things we promised, it was to ease the burden on people. And one of the burden, how many of you have any student debt? Say goodbye. Say goodbye. I promised that we'd lower $10,000 minimum if you had a loan. By the way, 90% of people are going to earn less than $75,000 or get this. That's where it's going. But here's the deal. Thanks to her in New Mexico, this is the first state in the nation to make it so every citizen of the state can go to college or trade school for tuition free. I took action on the federal level. We're giving up $20,000 in relief for people with student debt, $10,000 for most folks, another $10,000 if you had a Pell Grant. Look, what have the Republicans done? They moaned about it. They challenged it in court. Republican governors are trying to stop it, and they're going to put a lot of people in a position, buy a home, start a business, and so much more when that debt's relieved. Folks, take a look at who's complaining. This I find fascinating. The people who are complaining, the MAGA Republicans who sit in Congress, had hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars in pandemic relief forgiven. But they're now attacking middle-class Americans and student relief programs. Who the hell do they think they are? Look, and by the way, you have one member from South Florida. He had $1.2 million forgiven, $2.1 million forgiven. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she had $178,000 forgiven. Look, I've been able to do all this by reducing the federal deficit, the very deficit the Republicans voted against every single one of them when we passed the Inflation Reduction Act. Last year alone, under our leadership, the Democrats in Congress now, without any Republican vote, reduced the deficit by $1.4 trillion. 1 year. More than any time in American history. We cut the federal debt in half. A fact. All of this last year follows a historic drop the year before when I was first year president. $350 billion reduced. And we're going to further reduce the deficit over the next decade by another $250 billion. And a big part of this because of corporations are finally having to pay a tax. And one more thing, for the first time in a decade, seniors on Social Security checks, they're going to go up and Medicare is going to go down. And I'll protect your Social Security. We'll protect Medicare. Protect you. Headline New York Times. Right, flying out here. Headline, GOP signals plan to shrink Social Security. They're saying it out loud. Congressional Republicans, eyeing midterm election victory that could hand them control of the House and Senate, have embraced plans to reduce federal spending on Social Security and Medicare, including cutting benefits for retirees and raising retirement age. They're just saying, they're not even hiding it. They're not even hiding it. And by the way, they passed under that fellow Trump, they passed a $2 trillion tax cut, not a penny of which was paid for and affected only the top 1% of the American public. Come on. Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, God bless his soul, and his fellow MAGA Republicans say their number one priority, these guys are saying it out loud, they're telling you what they're going to do. Number one priority is deny Medicare the right to negotiate drug prices, which we just passed. Give the power back to Big Pharma so they can continue to rip us off with prescription drugs. The $2,000 cap on prescriptions for seniors, max, gone. $35 a month cap on insulin for seniors, gone. Savings on health care premiums of $800 a year for millions of you who are under the Affordable Care Act, gone. And of course, they still determined to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which would mean anyone with a pre-existing condition would lose their insurance. Folks, the protections are gone as well. Tax credits for lower energy bills, gone. Corporate minimum tax of 15%, gone. Under the Republican plan, many of the biggest corporations are going to go back to paying zero in taxes, as they did, as I told you earlier. 55 of them making $40 billion, paid nothing. Look, folks, that's their plan. It's reckless and it's irresponsible. It would make inflation considerably worse. Badly hurt working class and middle class Americans. That's not all. Now I'm told by the Republicans that unless I support between Election Day and the end of the year, unless I support reducing Social Security and Medicare, guess what? Oh, I guarantee you. I guarantee you, not a shot. Look, Senator Rick Scott is in charge of electing Republicans, the distinguished senator from Florida. He has a plan. He puts Social Security and Medicare in the chopping block every 5 years. Here's what that means. Every 5 years, if they gain control and pass it, I'll veto it, but if they somehow are able to do it, Congress will have to vote either to cut, reduce, or completely eliminate Social Security and Medicare. If they don't do anything, it goes. No, not a joke. It's no longer an entitlement program. It means it's on the block every year. Then along came Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, the United States Senator. He thinks 5 years is too long to wait. No, I'm serious. He says every single year, Social Security and Medicare should be on the chopping block, every single year. If Congress doesn't go to keep it, it goes away. That's the law they're introducing. And it's not just Social Security and Medicare. He wants veterans benefits and everything else in the federal budget to be put at risk. You know, they're saying if we can't cooperate in cutting the Social Security and Medicare, one more thing, they're going to shut down the government. Now, some of you remember when I was vice president and Barack was president, the leader of the Republicans did that in the Senate. I negotiated New Year's Eve day, and we finally settled it, and they backed down. But even though it didn't happen, our credit rating as a nation plummeted, and we got hurt badly. So, led us to fall on a debt. That's totally irresponsible. And they go as far as threatening that default. That alone has consequences. There's nothing that will create more chaos and more damage to the economy than this. And folks, look, We heard Republicans say they want to make permanent the Dobbs decision, the Supreme Court's decision on abortion, denying a woman's right to choose. Well, no matter what, by the way, whether it's rape, incest, well, anyway, you know it all. Republican Congress already introduced legislation for a national ban on the right to choose. Michelle's opponent has promised to do the same thing here in New Mexico, saying he'll pass a statewide ban. Instead, Michelle repealed the 1969 law on the books that criminalized abortion. Look, the bottom line is this. If Michelle's opponent wins, the right to choose here in New Mexico is going to go away. And then if Republicans gain control of the Congress and pass a nationwide ban, as the senator from South Carolina wants to do, the ban on abortion, I will veto it. It won't happen. But if we elect more Senate Democrats and keep control of the House, we're going to be able to codify Roe v. Wade as the law of the land. Look, we passed the most significant gun safety law in 30 years without any help from them. The NRA fought us tooth and nail. Your governor's committed to protecting public safety, so she's got gun legislation passed here in New Mexico. Universal background checks, as if that's a problem. Red flag laws, as my son as Attorney General was the first one to get passed in the state of Delaware, keeping the guns out of hands of those who harm themselves. She doubled state spending for public safety and raised salaries for state police, which I provided billions of dollars for people able to do. And many of her opponents, meanwhile, her opponents have the highest possible rating from the NRA, and it's against a simple measure to get dangerous weapons off the street. And one more thing. I'm coming back, and I got it done once. I'm going to do it again. Eliminate assault weapons. Look, folks, that bullet travels 5 times as fast as something coming out of a muzzle of a gun. And guess what? I don't know a whole lot of deer running around wearing Kevlar vests. I mean, what the hell are we talking about here? What are we talking about? But Republican extremism is not limited to social programs and the economy. They're going after your right to vote and how we – no, not a joke. Mark my words. They're going after your right to vote and who's going to count the vote. Folks, as I spoke about this last night, democracy is on the ballot this year in America. It is. It genuinely is. It's literally on the ballot, folks. You know, you have over 350 Republican candidates for everything from state auditor all the way to Secretary of State to governor who are election deniers, who say that they, in fact, do not believe the last election was fair. Every single appeal that took place was they were ruled against them. Well, guess what? Let me close with this. It's been a rough 4 or 5 years for hardworking Americans. A lot of families, things are still pretty darn tough. But they're bright spots where America is reasserting itself. We've made enormous progress in just 20 months, but we have more to do. Everything is literally at stake in just 5 days. And this country that we love so dearly. You know, when I got elected, I went to the first G7 meeting, which is the largest democratic economies in the world, in London. And I sat down and I said, America's back. I know all these people because I've been involved. For years, I've been chairman of foreign relations, and I did a lot of foreign policy for Iraq. And one of them turned to me and said, for how long? Not a joke. Macron said, for how long? Then another head of state said to me, what would you say, Mr. President? What would you say, Joe, if you picked up the paper tomorrow morning after this meeting and found out that a crazy mob stormed the British Parliament, broke down the doors of the House of the Parliament, and killed 2 cops in the process to overturn the election? What would you say? Imagine if we read that in the paper tomorrow, that happened in Germany or France or England. We'd really wonder about it. Well, we're scaring the living hell out of the rest of the world by the way things are acting. They look to us. No, not a joke. They look to us. And guess what? the Democrats and mainstream Republicans and independents, if we come together, we can meet this moment together. It's not all Republicans. It's not all of them. And I truly believe we're just getting started, because I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's nothing we beyond our capacity if we do it together. So vote. Get out the vote. Vote. And may God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.